Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 31st Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with my co-host Scotty N. Our topic today is vigilance and complacency. Could you tell us why you wanted to discuss this today, Scotty?
Well, it's sorry, it was your idea to cover this topic,
But I
but
mean, you
I
agreed
was
to talk about it.
I'm definitely on board.
Yeah.
Uh, I thought because I was having trouble picking a topic myself anyway. So,
Mm.
um, but having where I am today in my recovery, this is a very relevant topic.
Yeah.
So I'm
How many
excited.
years are you in, just for the audience who might not know you?
I have 15 years clean.
That's right. So, yeah, both those words are something that play into every day, right?
Yeah. hmm
Hmm.
And when I look at my recovery today, I see I see it's walking a fine line between developing my clean life and not straying so far from NA that I start sliding backwards. So I was excited to talk about this today. I'd like your perspective as well. Um, I don't know if you have any prepared questions or talk like things prepared.
I definitely do. Um, I was talking with someone just before this, and one really point that you just made about you talking about building your new life and the NA program, right?
Mhm,
It, like we only have so many hours in the day, right?
mhm,
And so, it is a juggling act in life of managing, how much time needs to go to our new life. Like how much time does our family deserve? How much
mhm,
time do our pets deserve? How much time does work deserve? And how much time does our recovery deserve? Because
mhm,
I know that, they always say if you don't put your recovery first, you can lose everything. And I'm not disagreeing with that. But I
mhm.
also do believe that, that of, um, a certain amount of recovery has to be in the actual living the principles. Like
Yes.
going to a meeting doesn't necessarily mean you're living the principles,
hmm
and so I guess, what, why don't we start with vigilance and then we can end with complacency. Like let's,
Okay.
although the two are perfectly intertwined, I just think,
hmm
let's roll into vigilance and
Okay.
just, describe to people what you see vigilance in as part of your program.
Okay. So just before I start,
Yeah,
one of the things I wanted to bring to the table today was an analogy
I
of
love
what
this. Scotty's
of
got the best analogies.
uh, recovery is like carrying sand in a bucket, and the sand is your life, and the bucket has a hole in it that you can't plug. So you've got to keep making sure there's sand in the bucket, or else it'll run out, right?
Yeah,
So that's kind of how I see vigilance and complacency, especially vigilance, where I can't stay clean on yesterday's works. You know what
yes,
I mean? So I have to keep putting sand in. So for me, vigilance is making sure my foundation is solid. And one of the ways, there's definitely different things out of the program that I can do to help it. The thing that I've learned though is there's never just one thing. It's always like you're a science guy too. So, like I like my natural instinct is to compartmentalize my life, right? So I have recovery here, I have school here, I have family here. Like you were said, like there's a juggling it, but really they're all connected. So
That's right.
when I look at saying my foundation is solid, it's not just, do I do a step one and two and three when I wake up? It's also, uh, do I have I prayed? Uh, uh, I don't go to as many meetings as I used to, but some meetings are, I still really need some meetings, right? So there's all these things that I can do that, like meeting attendance, talking to my sponsor, talking to my sponsees, working with my sponsees, you know, uh, and not, okay, I have a follow up. But anyway, by interconnecting these things, it allows me to stay spiritually healthy. So for me, vigilance today, I think is best described as, am I spiritually fit?
Okay.
So have I prayed? Have I done my morning readings, which I had fallen out of practice, At the end of the day, am I giving thanks? There's all sorts of different ways it manifests. And the reason I look at it that way is I remember when earlier in my recovery, I had to go to a place where uh, my DOC was going to be there and available.
Okay.
And it was unavoidable, or
Like going
relatively
there
unavoidable.
was unavoidable, you mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I, I,
Or at least in
I,
your mind it was.
well, it was unavoidable in my mind, but it would have greatly impacted the experience I was having with this particular group. Uh, but my sponsor was just like, "Are you spiritually fit?" So, two things. One is I had a plan, which I learned about going to doing that, like a party or something. I read in a book once how to have a plan for that. The other thing was that I was spiritually fit, and I knew that I would make an early exit.
Hmm.
So, because in, in step one it says we're powerless over our addiction. So why would I go somewhere that I need to exercise my power? Because I
Yeah.
because I
Well,
know
that's
I
it.
don't because I know I don't have enough, right?
Hmm.
So spiritual fitness, I think, is a big deal when it comes to vigilance.
Hmm.
And for me, I it's that they're definitely married. They're two sides on the same coin. But working in any program, I think, is important. I don't. I've been around long enough to see people who have time fall off, and
Hmm.
there's a number of different factors, I think. But most of the ones that have been successful that I've seen that have I've gotten to know in the program and they've gotten clean and I've gotten clean, and they don't come around anymore. But the underlying success, factor in their success is having a robust spiritual practice.
Hmm.
And so there's something there, right?
Well, I mean, the literal sentence is what we have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition.
There you go.
And like that sentence was one part of the readings we had to do in the treatment center when I went there, and it always struck out to me.
Hmm.
I loved the wording. What we have, and I wrote a song called Daily Reprieve, and what we have is a daily reprieve. We have
Hmm.
that daily break. And
Hmm.
contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition, not our
Hmm.
spiritual experience, not our spiritual ideas, the condition of it,
Hmm.
and it's working the steps, in all our affairs that
Hmm.
maintains that condition. Like one phrase that I use all the time is emotional sobriety,
Hmm.
and for me, I learned from various exercises we did inside the treatment center that my emotional sobriety is my precursor to prelapsing. Like it is, if I am way off emotionally, there's a
Hmm.
way bigger chance of a fuck it in my vocabulary than
Yes.
not. you know
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they say uh, that our 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 level of acceptance is directly proportional to our level of serenity.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
it's I'm not feeling acceptance if I'm acting out in a pile of defects like a little baby.
I agree. And my wife loves the saying emotional sobriety.
Yeah.
It's something that's really helped her in her recovery as of late. And
Hmm.
it's helped me too because, and I've, I've, there's been whole philosophies written upon the idea that we have emotions, but we're not our emotions. And
Yeah,
we have thoughts and we're not our thoughts, right?
exactly.
That's been around since the Stoics,
Yeah.
right? That's not new,
Hmm.
but is it ever powerful, right? There's so much to unpack with your, contingency statement. One of the things I'd like to point out is also says maintenance.
Yes.
Maintenance is an action word,
Yeah.
right? Like maintaining a car means you're doing the things you need to do to keep your car running. So maintaining my spiritual contact, my spirituality is the act of, you know,
Yeah.
taking care of things as they come up so that I don't have that point where I start slipping and fuck it,
Mhm. Well,
right?
and like they're not saying spiritual condition being keep yourself in a shitty condition, maintain it to a poor level. You know,
Hmm.
they're basically setting the expectation of you trying your best.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then your best is good enough. Like
Yeah.
we're not perfect, but there's a big difference between doing the minimum I can
Hmm.
and trying to be the best person I can.
Hmm. And I think something recovery teaches me is that I do my best and my higher power, I leave the results to my higher power,
Mm,
right? So I think the most immediate example that comes to mind, and I've had the blessing of helping 12 steps some people or bring somebody to the rooms. That's my bit. That's all I can do,
mm,
right? I did the best thing I can do is get somebody to a meeting because it's all up to HP after that.
yeah.
Like I'm more powerless over other people's recovery than I am over my own. So for me, that act of bringing somebody to a meeting and then it's NA that'll do the work after that, right? It's
Hmm.
it's like the way we view service in a lot of ways. We do the best service we can. Hopefully it'll work out.
Well, and I think that the greatest service we can really provide is provide a shining example of happy recovery.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Like be the proof that the program works.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing that kept me and gave me hope to begin with. The third
Mhm.
day I was in my treatment center, we went to one of the counselors' 16-year cake.
Mhm.
And like, somebody counted it up. And I think they said, like there's 1,200 years of recovery in this meeting right now.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like, man, you want to talk proof of happiness, proof of getting a life back, proof of having a life that I would want, proof of relationship building, proof of love, proof of a different way of life. There was an overwhelming amount of that proof. Like
Mhm.
that right there was like, okay, I have hope, but now even that meeting gave me my first inkling of faith.
Mhm.
Faith that this
Mhm.
works. Like hope is I would like this, but faith is like I believe in this.
Mhm. Mhm.
And seeing like hearing the stories, like these people with 16 plus years of recovery at this meeting, they weren't like, mild users. They were living on the street users 16 to 25 years ago. And to hear what they overcame and how, like, and to see them now,
Mhm.
it's it's like a Cinderella story of recovery, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Um, but that's the way I learned about faith is because I can remember the first meeting I went to. It was a Wednesday night, and there was a meeting Tuesday that I couldn't find driving around. Although I think I spied it, but I wasn't confident enough to go ask if that's where the meeting was. So the following day on the Wednesday, my stepdad drove me to a meeting. We went to a meeting and probably 10, 12 people there. And they all shared their story in 5 to 10 minutes. And um, I left and I was feeling better than when I went in. And I didn't, for me, that's where the spark of recovery started because after sticking around a while, I realized what I felt in that meeting was hope. Right? I had the hope that maybe I can get clean. I had a greater hope maybe my I can salvage my life, right? Because I wasn't sure if I really wanted to get clean at that point. I just knew that my life was fucked and I didn't want to ride on this train anymore.
But
So,
did you in your like, see, for me, what kept me in the ring for so many decades, like I was 37 years inside the ring myself.
oh, connection is breaking up,
Be
Milan.
happy, sober. Are you there?
I
We
am.
seem to
We
be
just
having
had
a
a
little
mate.
hiccup there.
Yeah, I didn't get. I After I said spark, I lost you for.
Okay. Okay. So basically, my question was, you know, inside, like for me, inside my addiction of 37 years, I didn't see life to be a happy place sober on all my white knuckling
Mhm,
experiences, right? And
mhm.
so for you, in whatever periods you managed to stay straight through your addiction, did you see life as happy before recovery? And in sobriety? Because I did not. Like I felt like the second I had something to escape to, that was why I was escaping, because I
Mhm,
wasn't I wasn't like, when I look retrospectively back, I was not happy in life. And at least with substances, I was numbing it. And the times I would try to take off, I white knuckled at 20 months and I was just full of resentment. And,
mhm,
and, so it was like finally seeing straight, happy people was a big thing for me.
mhm, mhm.
And I don't, did you feel that from that meeting that you got hope from too? Or was it just that maybe you could stop?
It was pretty much straight up. Maybe
Okay. Okay.
um I I spun my wheels a bit in that time,
Hmm.
and then I can remember I stuck and stayed for a while. Uh, that ended up turning into about 3.5 years of clean time,
Yep.
although it was dirty towards the end, and which drove me out of the rooms.
And just for somebody who's new, what does dirty clean time mean?
So dirty clean time is when you say you have so much time, you take a key tag or a medallion with so much time, and you don't have that much time.
And why would you do that?
Well, ego, mostly, I think.
And shame, maybe a little bit?
Yeah, both hubris and shame kind of wrapped into one. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So, and what that did was it didn't make me go, "Oh, this isn't for me anymore." It made me go, "Oh, maybe I'm not really an addict you know, if I did use this one time." It wasn't that I was using regularly. But what had happened was, um, I remember a time I used that was like 8 months after I thought that It was 8 months after the clean date that I thought was my clean date. And I was too proud to go to anybody and say, you know what, I fucked up. I actually only have, 2.5 years, not 3+ years. And that ate away at me enough that my brain convinced me that maybe I wasn't an addict ever then. And was which is funny to me. Like I get humor out of this.
It's kind of
When
laughable, but
well, well no, this is where I get my humor from is that if I'm not an addict, then I can go use.
yeah.
Like that doesn't make sense. If I'm not an addict, but drugs still destroyed my life, I probably will continue abstinence even if I don't need the program anymore.
Yeah.
But no, because it means if I'm not an addict, then I can go use successfully. And
Mm.
that experiment didn't work.
Yeah, I smell failure at the start of that adventure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the addict mind, rationalizing
Hmm.
and justifying and like just deluding, you know?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
one of my biggest problems coming into the program was delusions.
Hmm.
Delusions of my addiction, delusions of my like my rationalizations to continue and perpetually use were
Hmm.
built on these delusionary reactions to things.
Hmm.
Like I could get so mad at you that it was like, fuck you, Scotty, and then go use or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm gonna use it you. And
yeah,
fuck you, Milan, I'm gonna use it you.
that's right. Like,
I'm so angry. You're gonna see how angry I am because I'm gonna use so much.
watch me go off. Like, and then it was like inside my, moral inventory that made me fearless
Hmm.
that I got to see through those delusions. And
Hmm.
that's where, like whether someone wants to believe in a 12-step program or not or whatever, that was where that set of tools allowed me to actually start to see my life for what it really was and my
Hmm.
motivations and actions for what they really were.
Hmm.
Like I wish that, in grade 11 and 12 in high school, everybody did a set of steps just
Hmm.
so that they could have like a calibration of like what you think and what it is. Let's go forward now. Let's lose the junk
Yeah.
here, the junk of adolescence, and go forward into adulthood with a clear frame.
Mhm. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
the thing, the thing with delusions and insanity is that when I'm in my insanity, it doesn't seem insane,
Yeah, I
right?
know. I was buying the bullshit I was selling. Yeah,
Exactly.
Andrew says it all the time. He's like, half my brain was selling bullshit, and the other side was buying it every day.
Yeah.
And like I totally I really, really believed when I started my resentment list in step 4 that I was going to have a lineup of people apologizing to me as I left the fucking treatment center.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, man, everybody here, you get ready, man. Here comes Milan's apologies, like,
Yeah.
and like it was so delusional. And, you know, uh, and that's why when I came out of the treatment center, I don't know if you saw him, he was coming on the meeting for a while. My friend Gabriel from the treatment center, young Gabriel,
Mhm.
I called him my calibration brother because neither one of us could trust what we thought was happening in a situation for a while.
Mhm.
And so we would call each other and be like, "Hey man, was this a reasonable reaction to this?" And
Mhm.
it'd either be like, "Yeah, thumbs up," or "No, you're fucked. Go back and apologize." Like because that was
No,
it.
that's really important. Really
Yeah.
important.
I recommend it to people. I'm like, man, if you don't
Mhm.
have a group of peers, like just like some people use their sponsor, and I'm not knocking that. Like, but what I'm saying is to have a group of peers. Sometimes one person can also be as deluded as you, but if you ask a few people and the answer is
Mhm.
consistently the same or different, there's a good
Mhm.
chance that not everybody's delusional.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And but it's a really important part of recovery that I don't, I don't know that we talk about it as much in the fellowship as we should, but it is important to have that circle of people. One of the
absolutely.
one of the things that happened to me was um a lot of my circle moved away or left the program. I shouldn't say- My first circle, right?
Well, yeah, the survival rate of this program, right? Like,
Hmm.
if you were 1 in 20, you're the 1 in 20 left.
Yeah. So yeah, so like a lot of people that I was very close to in early recovery ended up, uh, and some of them have stayed clean leaving the program, but it's not the same anymore. And a lot of them have moved away. And it's funny because maintaining that social interaction, like not just the meeting, but going a bit early, help set up, going a bit late, hang out, having a smoke in the parking lot, or going for fellowship afterwards is actually a really big deal. And I just really realized it over the last couple months how big of a deal it is.
Because you weren't, or because you had a
Yeah,
moment
because
where it piqued your value, you know?
well, well, because I was starting to become a arrive on time, leave on time. That had developed into my routine for various reasons, and um, I think one of the things that becomes very important for me is when I realize that the people that are in these meetings for an hour or an hour and a half, what have you, they still have to go 22 hours until their next meeting.
Hmm.
So how do they do that? They
Yeah.
hang out, and how one of the ways is they do that is they hang out with other addicts. Like
Yeah.
I remember the first time I had true fellowship, it was at a hockey game. So I think the Oilers were in the playoffs, and dating myself here, I guess, but the Oilers were in the playoffs, and some so one of the members invited a bunch of us from the meeting over so we could watch the game and order some pizza. And it was like, you know what, these are real people too. This isn't just a face I'm seeing for an hour and a half at a meeting. This is a
Hmm.
real person who struggles with addiction like I do, and they're clean.
And they're reaching out by trying to ask you to go over.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
that could be hard in itself for people.
Hmm. Hmm. So, little things like that end up having a pretty big impact on recovery. So,
I think, I feel that recovery is something that, you get out what you put into it.
hmm.
Like if you're not putting fellowship into it, you don't get fellowship out.
Hmm.
Like I I reach out to people. I ask them how they're doing. I get their number. Like, and I might not call them all the time, but I do want to have the potential for connection. And when I do, I get infinite rewards back in friendship and fellowship, you know, like even doing this podcast. It's like we're two guys who would never meet in person that have met on a digital meeting, and we're talking recovery a couple hours a week now,
Hmm.
intimately, you know?
Hmm.
And that is creating a fellowship between us, but
Hmm.
it's also creating vigilance on just our internal thought process about recovery,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah,
I'm
it's
very
great.
grateful for it. I love you, Scotty. Like I always liked your shares on the meetings, and now we get a chance to, chew the recovery fat for a couple hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you come in with any questions?
A little bit. Not
Okay.
really questions, but I was trying to think about it a bit.
Yep.
And I like I came up with the Captain America idea that uh, we don't carry a weapon, but we carry a shield.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. And is your vigilance the shield?
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. Nice.
You know.
And is that made from adamantium, just like Captain America's?
Is I thought his was vibranium.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, sorry, that's Wolverine with the adamantium. Oh, yeah.
But no, I think it's important because like we can only arrest the disease, so it's always with us.
Hmm.
So I do my best to keep it in a box or a cage, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a sneaky guy. So, and it's funny, one of the things I found is that as I've grown in recovery, is he still gets tricky. Actually, one of the things I thought about that switch gears a little bit, but that was interesting for me was how, and this is a hard lesson, but sometimes it's easy to forget that the disease is fatal, and sometimes it's easy to forget that even though I have 15 years, it's still fatal.
I'm still so close to my heart-stopping event. I have not forgotten for a fucking second, dude. Like,
Hmm.
it's so. It's a good example out there, folks, of the difference what 15 years could feel like, 15 months.
Hmm.
That's the difference between us right now, is that I'm not far enough away, and I was scared enough that I have not even remotely lost any sensation of that fear.
That's good.
And
I,
I consider it a gift right
mhm,
now still, because I don't have a problem seeing why my program's important every day.
mhm,
My vigilance is at an all-time high,
mhm.
because I'm in the rhythm of my daily program, and as long as I keep on this thing, honestly, like they say, we do recover. And it's like, I'm not struggling with the substance abuse now. I'm struggling with myself on a
Mhm.
daily flow. But you know what? That's way less mental space than it was with the addiction.
Yeah,
Like I might be working on my acceptance and my anger and my anxiety and fears about stuff, but I'm not like need to use, need to use, need to use, need to get, need to use, need to get. Why don't get more, get more, get more? Like like that
yeah.
shit. That shit was maddening, literally
Oh
maddening
yeah,
at the end.
but it was.
Like I remember thinking about using while I was using, about the next time using and using again. Like I literally I would like using stack in my brain thoughts. It was like there was no room left for anything else.
Some sort of differential equation.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes, using factorial.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah. So I mean, I think that vigilance. You often hear, "I stay in the middle of the road because I don't want to fall off the edge,"
Hmm. Hmm.
and I love that analogy because it's just like I get way less near the edge with my emotional sobriety
Hmm.
when I have an active program keeping me, you
Hmm.
know, close to and surrounding my glimmers of serenity.
Hmm.
Like I don't think I exist in this like serene state, but I feel like my life is a series of beautiful glimmers of it.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and and so if we call, say, serenity zero in a balanced number state, right? And
Hmm.
I've got the like plus one or the minus ones, right? As long as I can
Hmm.
hover between like plus three and minus three, and I don't ever get to plus seven or minus seven, you
Hmm.
know, that's
Hmm.
kind of like my vigilance goal.
Hmm. Well, so yeah, no, I like that, and I really like the idea of the rhythm, flow, and harmony within my own life,
Hmm.
where because there's actually one of the daily readings that talks about chasing happiness. If in recovery we just chase happiness and chase joy, then we're going to end up exhibiting the same behavior patterns as chasing a drug.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's about being more the serenity side of things.
I
And
call it the 6 or 7 in my
yeah,
emotional escape. Like I always
hmm
chased an 11 to 14 with my drugs,
hmm
or zero, passed out. But
hmm
now it's like I'm realizing the beauty in a 6 or 7,
hmm hmm
and
That's
and that nice
that's really
feeling.
important. It's really important.
Yeah,
In the full version of the Serenity Prayer, talks about being reasonably happy.
yeah,
I think that's a good point is just to be reasonably happy.
absolutely. And so now I think we've ridden pretty good on vigilance. Is there anything else you want to say on that before we move to complacency?
No,
Okay.
I there there was one thing I was going to talk about today, but I don't know if we'll
Yeah.
get to it, and it's
No,
off
no,
topic.
no. No, no. Go
So
go for it. I want some off topic. I've done a couple off topics already today, and I love your off topics. Go for it.
okay, so
I'm
this
not in
is
a rush, and I wanna have a good conversation right now.
okay. So something you said the other day I've been mulling over for a while.
Oh, good. I like this.
Um, we were talking about math, right? And
Which?
math.
Okay. What about it?
So you said, and it might have even been offhanded by you, but you said, I just don't think I have the the focus or the I guess intent to be able to finish and go back to it.
For my degree?
Yeah,
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
like you were just kind of saying, like it's a chapter of your life that is closed, and you seem to be okay with
Yeah. I would say I definitely am okay with it. Yeah. Okay.
it
Sure. I
because
can't
it
remember exactly what I said, but that's not surprising to my uh, handicapped brain.
yeah. Well, it's something that I've struggled with for quite a bit over my recovery,
Yeah.
where I've continually tried to pick up the fragments of my degree and put them together somehow.
Yeah. I don't
And
think I could right now, to be honest.
I don't I'm taking first year calculus and I have the brain power to understand what's going on. I've been
hmm
taught it before, so I have an idea of what's happening.
hmm
It's the first time I've been taking it in years, and I'm coming to the realization that I probably won't get that degree. And the reason it's important for me, there's twofold that I wanted to talk about.
hmm
Because one thing was when, and this is legit, that when I was a kid, I wanted to be a scientist. That was
Okay.
like, some guys are policemen, some guys are
Mm.
firemen.
Sure.
I on dress as your career day, I came
Mm.
with like a lab coat and a pen protector, and I was a
Yeah.
scientist. So it's something I've always wanted. But then on the flip side, so it talks about in the literature, lost dreams reawaken.
hmm
But how do we understand and walk away when we know it's time?
I like this. I like this a lot. I'm faced with a few crossroads right now in my life. So you bringing this up is wonderfully timed, and I can't wait to hear what you think about it. So, for myself, there was a point about 8 years ago or 9 years ago that I was going to finish my degree,
hmm
and the the reason I didn't at that point was because of how poor the what do you call it, like the student guidance support was of the University of Western Ontario. I could
hmm
barely get my transcript, let alone get a discussion with somebody in the departments about whether I could finish my degree remotely, because I
hmm
wasn't like the three half courses I was missing were very particular in the actuarial science course, and one was only offered first term, and the other two were contingent on that first term one being finished. and there was no remote learning for it. And there still isn't actually. So I was trying to see if I could substitute, and I couldn't get a response, and I stopped from atrophy. But now, like now inside recovery, I have to say that my heart is really pointed in the direction of recovery.
Hmm.
And, I keep saying over and over, I got recovery fever. And I do. I love it. I'm loving learning about it. I'm loving helping people. I'm loving being helped. I'm loving the entire process of growth, like, and, and then starting this podcast, it's also like, man, there's something telling me here that this is the direction I need to be going in my life, and because there's nothing that feels like this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Hmm.
Having this conversation with you right now, I don't need to feel like I have zero feeling like I'm supposed to do anything else right at this moment. And
Hmm.
and the only other thing that gives me that feeling is music, you
Hmm.
know? And I have come to the realization that, in our society in Canada, being a live musician is just not it, it it's more of a struggle than it is a reward for
Oh,
me.
definitely.
And so, I've just come to learn that I need to support myself with something else other than music. And that's not to say that I can't see aspects of recovery helping my real estate. Really,
Hmm.
like, I'm more present for people, I always was very honest with my clients, you know, but now I think I'm even more honest with my intentions about things. Like
Hmm.
and I think my presence is higher, and there's just a bunch of factors of the spiritual principles that I think help out in my industry, even though, maybe some people use the opposite of them to get ahead. That's just not what I believe in. But, coming to a crossroads, it's like, when do we jump off the cliff?
Hmm.
When do we let the hand of cards go down and see what new cards are coming? And so
Hmm.
how's that working for you right now, Scotty?
Uh, well, I can see a crossroads for myself as well. And I think where I struggle is finding the right time to jump.
There's never a right time, is what I'm feeling. Like, there's like the whole thing about it is there is the risk of change, right?
Hmm.
And that risk is always there. So if you're
Hmm.
waiting for this time where it's like, there's no risk, Scotty, it's never going to change. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's, you know, that's part of what I'm wondering about with my entire, you know, crossroads and finances and everything right now. It's like, am I getting told that I need to change? Am I
Hmm.
getting told that I need to change and move in a different direction in my life?
To
And
read the signs.
yeah, like okay, there's so much about my relationships I've had to work hard at to rebuild inside recovery, right?
Hmm.
So when is a parallel to that would be, okay, well, my finances I also need to rebuild. My career I need to rebuild, right? When
Hmm.
when is rebuilding those and working hard at them the right thing? Or when is that beating my head against a wall that I should turn away from anyway? You
Hmm.
know, like that's
Hmm.
like I could find signs in either direction all the time,
Hmm.
you know. But the one thing that I'm definitely seeing is that there's something happening inside everything that I'm doing recovery related and with this podcast that is more benefit to others than myself.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's where I'm like, then isn't that the right thing?
Mhm,
You know, like
mhm,
like me just pushing through and making the most money I can is not of greatest service to the world.
mm.
It might be of greatest service to my financial needs, but
Yeah.
it's it's really tough. But I do understand that currently I feel like I have a certain duty. Like I took on a family, I took on
Hmm.
my debts, and I took on the responsibility of taking care of people.
Hmm.
Like that was a choice I made. And if I'm to have integrity, then I need to maintain what I've committed to.
Hmm.
It's not like, hey, I've got this place for you to live. Oh, I don't care now. Just go live outside.
Hmm.
Like, that's not integrity,
Yeah.
you know? So, like, just as I can't continue to selfishly use substances and ruin my life, I also can't move into another direction of selfishness that's only
Hmm.
serving me when
Hmm.
I am part of a greater whole,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think you're right. I think that the problem I have is that my addiction shouts
Yep.
and my higher power whispers.
Yeah.
Because if I'm totally honest, I love math. Like
Yeah.
mathematics to me is beautiful.
Mm.
It's
There's
it,
perfection in it.
there's well in parts of them. There's some there's some interesting things in math, right? But if even if I got a math degree, I wouldn't I don't think I would be doing what I love because I really like you said, I really like helping people. And I've been tutoring math now part time for a while.
Hmm.
And I get great fulfillment out of that, you know?
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I tutored from grade 5 to third year university. So
hmm
I understand when you get something across to somebody that seemed impossible
hmm
or
hmm
was impossible to them for years.
yeah, that aha moment when they
Hmm.
go, oh shit, that makes sense.
Yeah. Or
Stuff
they
like
come
that.
back the
So,
next week and still remember it, you
hmm
know?
hmm or they did so well on a test that their teacher thought they were cheating because
Yeah.
right
Hmm.
because the improvement was so drastic.
Hmm.
But I think if I'm honest with myself, uh, I think teaching is probably a more direct avenue for me to do what I want to do
Hmm.
than anything else.
But you would have to complete your degree to do that, just for clarification.
Well, I might have to start at the beginning if I want to do that, just because most of my university credits are almost 20 years old now.
Though that doesn't necessarily mean they're invalid.
Hmm.
You know, like especially like because I was actually going when I looked into to completing my degree, I could finish that degree and use that degree as the basis to go into teachers college. I could.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and mine was literally 26 years old at that point. So,
Really?
yeah, so I would say that there's a good chance you can get them to keep those credits as credit as long as you're not trying to overtly specialize into something like a statistics degree or actuarial science. Like if you just had it like a general arts in math or general science in math, there's a good chance you can probably use them.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Interesting. I'll have to look into this.
Hmm.
This is interesting. But when my dad was an actuary,
Yeah, you
he
you
brought
mentioned that
actuarial
to me
science.
before.
I think that's cool. I used to look at his old textbooks. They're interesting.
Yeah, it was, it's funny now. I wonder how AI is going to affect that whole field because when I was going to school for that, it was the math that no computer could do because it needed that person governing it behind it. And now that's not going to be the case.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just have some people inputting things with maybe one out of 100 actuaries. Anyway, though, back to recovery. You know what?
Yeah.
That was a pretty good tangent. Anybody out there who doesn't know about math and wants to learn more about recovery, stick around. We're getting back into it. So, okay, though. Now, my question for you, though, is so you stand at this crossroads, right?
Hmm.
How do you see using your program to help you decide?
Mm. Be still.
Okay.
I think it's something that it comes down to. Not forcing an answer
Mm-hmm.
and weighing my emotions as
Mm-hmm.
well as my thought.
Okay. I
I
like
was
that.
I, was- I was told once that um, if you have something that you may need to get rid of
Mm-hmm.
and you lose it, that if you feel a sense of relief, that it was never for you in the first
Mm-hmm.
place. And so if when I'm weighing these things emotionally, if I feel sad about one and not the other, then the one I'm feeling sad for is probably the one that I should pursue. So like
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's the reason you flip a coin because most people think that you flip a coin, it's to determine which side it lands up, and you call it in the air, right? The real reason you flip a coin is because when it's in the air, your brain is going to tell you which side you want it to land on for it to come true.
Okay.
So for me, I
That's
think
interesting. I like that.
for me, it's about being still, contacting those people that are in my support network to
Hmm.
talk to them about what I may or may not want to do, and kind of go from there.
I've used the process. I learned this a long time ago, like, well, man, maybe 25, almost 30 years ago. But if you lie on your back on your bed and you think about, the same choice, right?
Hmm.
It's like inevitably one of the two options will cause your stomach to flex up more.
Hmm.
And so whatever one causes that flexing is not the one that you should be going for.
Hmm.
It is the wrong thing for you.
Hmm.
And when I've been wise enough to take those decisions to that point, I've always made a decision that I've never regretted with that.
Hmm.
So I think that's in addition to flipping the coin. If you can't feel like you're getting the answer in that flip, lie down, take a breath. You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Boy, yeah, that sure puts a lot of forks in our road. I definitely, I would almost, we could almost do an episode on that coming up. Um, okay, now complacency. What
Back to completion. Yeah.
complacency? How has complacency? Uh, okay, first of all, what is complacency to you, and how do you make it part of your program or not part of your program?
So I would say complacency is the opposite of vigilance.
Okay,
So if I'm not being vigilant, I'm being complacent. If I'm being complacent, I'm not being vigilant.
okay,
So complacency shows up when I don't go to a meeting because I just don't feel like,
yep,
right? Um, when I when something comes up and instead of acting on it towards the betterment of my recovery,
yep.
that I sit on it. Like I had a using dream 2 nights ago, and it was one of the more intense ones that I've had recently. And um, well, I knew that I had to do something for my recovery, so I phoned my sponsor and I went to a meeting that night. So actually, I think I went to the morning too. But I mean, so that's complacency would be as if I had that using dream and then I just didn't do anything about it.
Mm.
So it's like doing a sink full of dishes. If you don't do the dishes, they don't get clean.
Hmm.
So complacency is about inaction for me.
Exactly.
Being so laid back and nonchalant about things
Mhm.
that it becomes a detriment to your life.
Yeah, like if we were a tribe of hunters living in the woods, right?
Hmm.
Vigilance would be us listening for animals at night, and
Hmm.
complacent would be us just going to bed and getting eaten by the wolves.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what like the very first thing I saw when I came out of the treatment center was I watched people relapsing in real time, good friends, and every single
Hmm.
time it was complacency. It was reservations followed by complacency.
Hmm.
And the, you know, the reservations were always that they didn't need to do everything that they were suggested, you know?
Hmm.
And then what that created was an incomplete program of action where
Hmm.
things weren't getting completely done. And you know what? I'm not saying I'm not saying you have to have a perfect program out there, everybody. I just want to make that clear. But one thing I do know is that when, it says in the book, if you thoroughly follow this program, nobody will fail. And I have not seen anybody follow all the suggestions and fail. So,
Hmm.
like how much recovery, how much freedom do you want, Scotty? I want all the freedom. And so
Yeah.
when I see somebody running a partial program, and then they're getting disillusioned with the program and pulling away from it and being complacent. It's like, man, you can smell a relapse a mile away.
Hmm.
Like, first of all, like a reaction of like hating the program or not liking it or whatever, right? Like, you just had something save your life. It's like somebody pulling you into the
Hmm.
you saved my life. And before they even wrote, arguing with them, like, you know,
Hmm.
and, and I just think that, it's like looking the gift horse in the mouth.
Hmm.
Like, instead of having gratitude for the program that just kept you alive for more days straight than anything else ever had, it's like trying to poke holes in it.
Yeah. You know what? A- Addiction is a disease that tells you you don't have the disease.
Exactly. And so
And
you can't trust it when to tell you you're better.
you know, well, it's like, you know, uh, being prescribed the medication, and then you start feeling better, and you say, "Well, I feel better. I don't need the medication anymore." When it was the medication that got you to that point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a perfect analogy. And, complacency is not even just in your actions. I see people coming to meetings and not thinking about the program. I see
Hmm.
people like, not applying themselves to them steps and or like delaying the steps, but saying, oh, I'm still working on it. Like to me, sometimes the step working guides create a false sense of recovery.
Hmm.
Like I the program is the steps. I understand how the step working guide is designed to help you think about the steps. But how many times have you seen someone be like, "Hey, I'm doing 5 questions a day. I'm working hard on my recovery." And it's
Hmm.
like, Okay, but you've been doing 5 questions a day, but you've been dishonest, intolerant, and this and that, like,
Hmm.
and not living the program. Like, it it's not a test. If you get 65 in the step working guide, that's not going to save your life. You
Hmm.
know, it's about changing how you think. And I
Hmm.
feel that, because our school system is so designed for a pass or fail thing, you know,
Hmm.
like when I go over step work with some people, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, what do you think the point of this question was?
Hmm.
Like, I don't care if you write 20 paragraphs. I don't care if you write one sentence. I'm like, what do you think they're asking here of you to unfold in your
Hmm.
mind so
Hmm.
that like to change what you used to think?
Hmm.
Like the point of the question is not for an answer. It's for a change,
Hmm.
you know?
I've had a similar conversation with someone from the rooms here, and we were talking, and um, he's got a few days in too. So, but if you flip that to the sponsor side of things, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking, he's like, how many step ones have you done with other men? And then how many step fours?
Yeah.
And how many step 12s?
One step 12. But I feel lucky to have had one step 12 in 7 months of sponsorship.
Yeah.
There was a lady on Friday, and she was like, it was 10 years working with sponsees before I had my first step 12 with the sponsee. And
Hmm.
she's like, I was beginning to think I was doing everything wrong,
Hmm.
and like the attrition rate is so high inside these substances that,
Hmm.
if only 2% are making it, then there's a good chance that 1 out of 50 times is all you're going to get for a 12th step.
Hmm.
And that's if that person is a hardworking person,
Hmm.
who doesn't give up on the program itself.
Yeah. I heard a rather frustrated member one time share to the newcomers. Have you ever been to an Olympic-sized swimming pool?
Yep.
They're pretty big, right?
Mm.
So let's say there's 50 of you on one side of this pool on one of the lengths. Two of you get to the first two of you that get to the other side win. The rest of you drown. How hard would you swim?
Yeah.
How hard would you swim?
Yeah.
And the numbers are the same.
Yeah. Exactly.
Sorry, that's a bit morbid.
But it's totally true. Like, it's a life or death situation for a lot of us, and not treated as such. And
Hmm.
part of the problem is that a lot of people don't think they're worth it when they're coming into the program.
Hmm.
Like, it's a really sad thing. I mean, so many of us have burned so many bridges and so many relationships. It's almost like we feel like we deserve punishment instead of
Hmm.
redemption, you know? And that's not the way that the program works. And that's not the way it's designed to help facilitate the changes. We don't need more pain to grow. You know what I mean? We will need uncomfortability. Let's
Hmm.
clarify that. Like, we do have to confront what we've done to clear it out, but we
Hmm.
don't need to lop more self-loathing and pain onto that.
Hmm.
It's a fascinating journey, and it's a journey with work and a lot of ups and downs and a lot
Hmm.
of question marks at a lot of points. But the one thing is that I see for myself, what I'm doing is working. If I just stick with it, it's continuing to work. And every day is proven to me that it is, and I'm feeling stronger inside that all the time. as I get further from my edges of, staying in the middle. Because I just feel that I'm swinging a little bit less violently in the dangerous directions,
Mhm.
getting a little bit more hold on my life, my relationships, and my ability to realize when I'm wrong and when I need to take a step back and do a little quick step four on my actions for that morning.
Mhm.
Hmm. So, anything else you want to talk about, Scotty?
No, I think I'm tapped out.
Okay, well, I certainly love you, brother, and I look forward. Caleb said that he's in for next week, so we could
Okay.
jump back on that horse. And I love you, and tune in next episode for more recovery fun. Catch you later, everybody. Please help us help others. If you'd like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.